Good afternoon / evening / morning, wherever and whenever you are listening, and welcome to the RotoWire Euro DFS show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart. I am joined, as usual, by Ryan Belongia. We're going to preview the two-game slate for Tuesday, June 18th, tomorrow. But first, we're going to break down what happened on today's three-game slate. And Ryan, it was a wild ride from the start. Romania won 3-0. I think Fear the Turtle, who's on an absolute heater, took down the main GPP with a contrarian three-man Romania stack that absolutely paid off. So it went off the rails in that sense right away. And then in the second match, I can't even remember what happened in the second match because I'm just like asleep from that horrible third match involving Austria and France where Mbappe might have broken his nose and France stops trying in the second half. And then in the second match, we had an upset. Slovakia scored a goal early, and then all of the universe conspired against Belgium in order to keep Romelu Lukaku and company out of goal. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the slate, and how did things go for you from a DFS point of view?
Yeah, things did not go good for me today. My thoughts on the slate are that I'm happy it's over and we can move on to the next one. Pretty crazy. You got none of the three favorites scored a goal today, right? You had an own goal in the France game, but none of the three favorites were capable of scoring a goal. That's absolutely wild, especially the way we previewed the slate or, what we thought was going to happen. But I think just, again, when you see all three matches go like that, you've got to just learn that the stuff that can happen. You forget quickly after that first slate, you forget quickly how things actually can go. So, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. You mentioned that Mbappe, if he just scores that goal, it ends up being like a break-even day, or maybe I even make a small profit, but he doesn't, and we lose. I mean, what else? What do you say? I mean, Mbappe has been pretty bad to us this year. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, in our private DM, Ryan, I was wondering how many slates in a row were down bad in short slates, paying a premium price on Mbappe. Him missing that goal right in front of he just wasn't able to curl it into the net. I was so mad. I thought I was kind of dead. I don't know. It was a weird slate, and I ended up cashing comfortably, so it was an okay day. But man, was I tilting? Was I tilting when I saw that? Ryan, as far as my decisions today in cash, I think I was always going to play Mbappe. I was surprised. I thought he'd be higher than 60%. I thought more people would go for the name brands, but a lot of people took interesting strategies. I saw a lot of people maybe just play like a Trossard along with the Griezmann. It all made sense. The slate was wide open. Opted for Kevin De Bruyne in a set pieces. It was tough to get the Ukrainian situation right, Ryan, because we had three guys to choose from: Sudukov, Mudryk, and Tsiganov. And then what a disaster a defender was. That made late swap an absolute headache. Looking back, how would you change things, you think?
I'm not sure I would change that much. I mean, I really had the same lineup as you, except I went Casteels, or else it would have been fine. That one was super annoying. I mean, I had Mangan, and I was just, let's just check the odds, just because I don't really know. And I was going to play that $2,500 Belgian guy, but Belgium were like 46% to keep a clean sheet. France were like 40. So I mean, good for you for landing on the France keeper. But yeah, would I change anything else? I would maybe play two Ukraine guys. Like I played Sudakov and you played Mudryk, but I had a lot of lineups where I played both. Maybe I just play both next time. But also, we were planning for that Belgium left back, and I made a perfect lineup that could fit Mbappe, De Bruyne, Griezmann, Sudakov, and then the Belgium. Yeah, just everything we wanted. But then it didn't go that way. What's his name? De Kuiper didn't end up starting. Ended up playing that Zach De Best or whatever his name is, and leaving a bunch of salary on the table. Yeah, got goalkeeper wrong again, but I don't know. I mean, could say a lot about this slate. Belgium were so bad. I'm just looking at the chat. It was unbelievable how bad Belgium were. I don't know how they can expect to do anything with Onana and Mangala in the midfield. Like it was really bad that first half, and then N'Golo Kante, he stuck out from the French game for sure. I mean, thought his legs were gone, but it was exactly the opposite. So that was good to see, but not much else. France kind of looked like England.
They did. I tweeted that France are lucky that England exists. I think it would keep a lot of scrutiny about how they play the media. I mean, of course, France win. It's like the Spider-Man meme. They're pointing they're pointing at each other. Yeah, I agree full send. I got lucky with Onana getting 8 points. I don't even remotely know how that happened, but it's one of those it's one of those days that we'll just take it. Ryan, I think lesson learned for me just in building lineups, it was like, okay, I'm either gonna like stack Ukraine or go with one of these like Mbappe, Griezmann, De Bruyne lineups and sort of change things around. And I was happy that I got to play a lot of Sudakov. I think he was a decent play at 5,100. I would probably play him over Mudryk again just because I think I would have been able to get a little bit more juice at defenders if we could just rewind this thing over one more time. But yeah, just playing all Sigankov, Mudryk, and just having those guys clump together or not. I want to maybe try to find a better way to mix and match a little bit because the likelihood is all three looks like good plays. I had them projected as good plays, but probably only two of them were going to get there. So maybe set up some type of rule so that, unless that game goes like 5-0, probably just pick two and, live with your lot in life. Muted, Ryan.
Yeah, and probably. But also, probably got helped a little bit by the fact that they went down 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. I mean, at least for Mudryk, he would have never had that floor. He probably wouldn't have played 90 minutes. Even Sudakov, Sudakov got subbed, but they moved him back to CDM. That didn't really help when they made those subs. But still, yeah, I don't know. Like Ukraine was just kind of bad, which we kind of knew. The one thing I was disappointed with from yesterday's pod, I wish I could have came back on and said, was when we were talking about keeper and we mentioned the Romania keeper. Later that when I said just I don't want to play that guy. I was thinking late last night that like Ukraine just aren't good though. So like there is winning upside. I was just disappointed if I told the people not to play the Romania keeper. I think I backtracked on it at the end of the pod. But anyways, if my point was going to be like if Dobrik would have scored and they went up 1-0, all those Ukraine guys might have busted, and they're all sub risks, and they weren't putting up a floor like before they started pressing to get back in the game. So I don't know.
A lot of this, Ryan, seems just like game script correlation is basically what's making or breaking your lineups. Like the French forwards each on 8 points because they didn't really need to do anything. I think Griezmann and Mbappe were on 6 points each after the first half, and then they decided to, take it easy in their classic Didier Deschamps style. All the Ukrainian midfielders get there. I mean, they do quite well. But you're right. I mean, Mudryk was on like 4 points at halftime and was just hopelessly crossing for a little bit towards the end. So
yeah, Sudakov was on 1.8 or something, I want to say, and Sigankov was on 6 because he took all 3 of the corners. That's something to note. He took all 3 of the first half corners. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just tricky. I mean, like maybe you just have to think about, does this go on a weird game script? Because it doesn't feel like anyone like there's less intrinsic fantasy value in some of these teams. Like I guess De Bruyne got his, but again, 14 points and Belgium were had to push the entire game and he was whipping in crosses. So I don't know. I think maybe thinking about how these games go a little bit more carefully instead of just like the qualities and roles of the player. I think maybe something
Definitely
like that is in order.
Yep.
Hey, I think that's enough for today. You can keep on talking about it in the Discord if you want, rotowire.com/chat. It's popping. There's a lot of people coming in and out of the Discord. A lot of people talking good ball takes on Foden if he's drifting too far inside and things of that nature. So it's a fun place to hang out and neglect your day job. So please join us if you're not already a member, rotowire.com/soccer trial. If you enjoy our videos, we're grinding every day. If you could give us a like, that really helps. All of that fun stuff. Those are all fantastic ways to support the program. Ryan, let's dig into the 2-gamer tomorrow. I get to sleep in relative to me. These 9 a.m. start times, at least Eastern time, they hurt a little bit. So it's nice to have a little bit of a break. We have in the noon fixture, we have Turkey playing against Georgia. Turkey are solid favorites, 56% win odds, and they have a 1.6 implied goal total. some fantasy observations, Ryan. Turkey were pretty productive from a fantasy point of view in their group, and Georgia were not. Like usually they conceded more, and like they had less possession against Scotland when they played them, for example. And Scotland are not very much a possession-based team, so that has me interested in Turkey pieces, especially at the price. Because in the other match, I mean, Portugal are incredible. You look at stat leaders in just about every key category. A ton of shots, a ton of crosses. They have great players with great roles. Ronaldo loves to shoot. Bruno loves to shoot and cross the ball. And they are favorites against the Czech Republic, but they're expensive, Ryan. And I think some role fragility might be going on with our set pieces. I don't think it's as simple as plug in Bruno if recent friendlies are to mean anything. So, what are your thoughts about these matchups, and what were your thoughts when you started to comb through DK pricing?
Yeah, those are the first two things that stuck out. The first being Portugal prices, being quite a bit more than Turkey, and then second being Bruno, because you think you would just lock Bruno in here, especially on a 2-game slate. But look at the last 2 friendlies, and I think the last one he played 90 minutes and took 1 of 7 corners, 1 of 7, I believe. And then the game before that, he played like almost 80 minutes, and they had like 11 corners, and he took 1, I believe. I got to check that, but Bernardo Silva took most of them one time. The last game, it looked like Cancelo and João Neves split. I don't know if we're going to see João Neves in there this time. But yeah, I just, can't really guarantee Bruno a role on set pieces, at least not a majority role. Could it still happen? Sure. But he's expensive. So yeah, I think it makes the slate interesting because, Ronaldo too, you see at 11K. There's a strategy of you can play both if you want. Obviously you can play one, but I think you can credibly play neither too. So there's actually some strategy on this slate. I kind of like that. Like I didn't want to just jam everyone, I still think people will jam Bruno, but maybe there's some edge if you want to try to fade Bruno in some spots.
Especially on a 2-match slate where there's going to be a lot more binary outcomes, and I think it's easier to sort of conceptualize like the game theory behind it. I ran some lineups initially. I still have to tinker around, but like an optimizer was suggesting Turkey stacks as the best way to go. Now, I think that's kind of silly, and we'll talk about how Turkey have some role fragility and minutes issues as well. But really, I think you can build good lineups just as you say. You jam both, you can build great lineups that look good. You can just play one, you can build lineups that look good. You can play neither, and I think you justifiably have lineups that look good, and there is indeed merit to everything. Maybe we can talk about the Turkey and Georgia starting lineup first then, Ryan. There's been a lot of surprises with starting lineups, so I personally need to do a better job of at least going through all the various sources and stuff because these things are in flux, and sometimes you can actually find good rumors on Twitter if you're hunting hard enough. Right now, the lineup that we have projected, don't know too much about Mert Mulder, but he had a good 30 minutes in garbage time one time, so that's at least vaguely interesting if you think Turkey are going to possess the ball and maybe their fullbacks cross. Ryan, the headache of the slate is going to be Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who often takes set pieces, but if Arda Güler, I pronounced that wrong and I'm sorry, if Arda Güler starts, I don't think Hakan is going to be taking corners. It looks like whenever Güler was on, Hakan took less corners. That's at least what I found. So that's an interesting, especially when Hakan costs like 8,600 or something close to that. I think other Turkey forwards are more affordable. Like you have Arturkoglu, Kuchku is forward eligible, which might be useful. I mean, on the Georgia side, there's this guy Shengelia who takes some corners, and then Kvicha Kvaratskhelia is affordable at 6,100. Although I don't think we can play him in a forward spot. I'm expecting Turkey is going to possess the ball, but these games have kind of been closer than expected overall. I've kind of projected maybe it's a wider dominance and they're a bit tighter, so maybe there's some value there. Ryan, what do you think about this Hakan situation, and what do you think about Turkey overall?
Yeah, I thought that was a good breakdown. Turkey's tough. Hopefully, as you mentioned, hopefully Arda Güler starts. Don't know how to say his last name, but we'll figure it out. He's left-footed, so he splits with Çalhanoğlu. Because just not too excited about playing Çalhanoğlu for 8,700 in, I mean, kind of a more defensive role. He doesn't. You're not really expecting him to score from open play or too often. Turkey in general, I remember them disappointing as favorites quite often recently. They have a lot of nice players. It's a good matchup, but yeah, just as we saw today, you know, could be the odds are relatively similar to Ukraine, Romania. I don't know if Georgia's got quite as much as Romania, but they do have Kvaratskhelia. That's something. And yeah, you mentioned this Shanghelia. He splits sets from what it looks like, maybe even takes most of them. Seems to get subbed 3,800 or I think he was, or something. Was that what he was? No, I could.
I think it's like around 4,600.
Oh, 47. Sorry, I was thinking of their wing back on the other side. He's 3,800. Kakabadze. Anyway, so yeah, look for Goulart to start. I hope that happens because else you're gonna have a tough Çalhanoğlu decision. Like you're probably gonna want to just play him in cash. He's got a monopoly in a good matchup and also takes penalties. But yeah, just echoing what you said, the pricing is pretty good on the Turkey side compared to the Portugal side, so you're gonna want to take some chances there.
Yeah, and Ryan, are we certain that Hakan takes penalties? It wouldn't surprise me, and I think he scored like 20 penalties for Inter. It seemed like he broke every interleague slate, running good on penalties. The Italian Cole Palmer is much better than Hakan, but just in terms of always getting the penalty. But he did miss one, so I saw that Yaziki, I pronounced that name wrong, but I saw that he did take an attempt. I don't know when that was and if Hakan was on the field, so I think it's likely that Hakan takes, but if someone else did, I'm not going to say
that's
I told you so.
interesting.
It's
Was that recently?
It was during qualifying, so qualifying was not
Okay.
decidedly not recent, but it's just something that stuck out to me. So let's say like 85% chance Hakan's on penalties, but maybe a small chance he falls off.
And who took it? Yazizi?
Yeah, Yazizi.
Who's not going to start and is sort of somewhat of a set piece specialist himself, so that's not totally.
It's a sensible.
Crazy,
okay.
But yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good point. Moving on to the Portugal matchup, we talked about how we have friendlies where João Cancelo is taking some corners. Nuno Mendes, I'm seeing, might start instead of Diogo Dalot, so that's something that you're going to want to be prepared for. Mendes is now fit. I think he's a nice attacking player. I might have hallucinated, Ryan. I thought I saw Vitinha took some corners in game logs, so that's something that he does. And Vitinha loves to be a very tilting DFS player at 8K. And then, so yeah, I think we're going to see this midfield of Vitinha, Palhinha, Bruno, probably one of the best midfields in the entire tournament, if you had to ask me. And then the wings, you'll have Leao and Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva attacks a little bit more just based on stats. He's not really racking up that many goals, but it's a little bit better, I think, than Manchester City. And then you have Cristiano Ronaldo leading the line. And say what you will about Cristiano Ronaldo. He's older now. The man always shoots. He'll take penalties. He's likely to score a goal. I don't really mind playing these center forwards in these spots, Ryan, because I feel like I have a tough time relying on crosses. The one thing I can rely on is shots, a little bit more in international play. So in what I perceive as a shot-centric system, I kind of like Ronaldo, even at 11K, as steep as that is. Have you seen anything different for Portugal? I don't know. What do you think?
No, it's unfortunate. I mean, for DFS, I say it's unfortunate because you're going to have the Ronaldo decision in these Portugal games all the time, and it seemed like that might be over with. But he's in good form. He's scoring goals again and keeps himself in shape. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a Ronaldo fan. Yeah, I agree with what you said too. About center forwards and about some fragility with Bruno. So I can see myself getting to Ronaldo. I mean, 11K is a lot though. Like a goal probably wouldn't even beat you. Maybe if there's not that many goals, but yeah, I think. So yeah, you mentioned Vitinha. I forgot to mention him. He split corners the other game, and it was João Neves the other time. Whoever was in that position, Bernardo Silva is probably going to split. mentioned Cancelo took also. I think I've seen Nuno Mendes take as well, just because he's left-footed on that side. So yeah, it's kind of a nightmare with Portugal sets. I think we just got to assume that Bruno's not going to take a majority. At least that's how I'm gonna go into it.
I want to give him some credit for his open play role because I still do think he will shoot. I mean, he's a really good player, and we've seen him kind of take control with Portugal. But I mean, this is one of these things. Like, if you try to project, you have to assign these roles to people. Like, there's not like a magic computer that's going to say Bruno is going to take every set piece, or someone that you have to get these. You have to assign the roles correctly, which is the tricky thing. And with anything up in the air, at least in GPPs, I think you could definitely do a full fade of Bruno on GPP if you want. It would be dangerous, but you could. And I don't expect him to be plus 90% in cash. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's just a lot of ways to play this one, Ryan. On the Czechia side, it looks like we're missing a player, but they usually play 3 at the back, so I think we're missing a center back in this lineup. We'll have that fix. I don't really expect much of a floor. Portugal are kind of a suffocating team, and I think they have a definite talent advantage. But there's a few cheap players, Ryan. The wingbacks are not too expensive. Sufal takes a few set pieces. Socek, I don't know how expensive he is. I think he's the penalty taker. And Adam Hloizek, he's cheap. He's an option for a second forward, especially if you need to fit in some Portuguese pieces. Do you see any value on the other side of the Portugal matchup?
Maybe just set pieces. You mentioned Hloizek's price tag. That's makes him intriguing. A good player too, obviously, for Leverkusen. Set pieces, I guess, got to be somewhat intrigued by in this lineup. I know we see Sufal take some. Woody here, I'm not sure. I haven't checked into too much Czech Republic yet, but I remember Jurasek used to take a ton. I know Provod takes 2. So I think it would be those 3. I'm not really sure who has priority. But it's going to be one of those 3 or 2 of those 3. But yeah, in general, Portugal, I feel like Portugal is more like, closer to Spain than they are to Belgium, where like, as far as like, if you want to play opposing teams against them, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, sorry. Actually, can you repeat yourself? I zoned out. I was reading a comment.
No, that's fine. You said Portugal are pretty suffocating. I just said they're closer to Spain than they are to like Belgium, where like, would you want to play underdogs against them? Is there going to be floor there? Is there going to be chances there? Like you said, Portugal is more of a suffocating possession. Yeah. You feel better about them not, coming out like Belgium did.
Yeah,
for example.
Yeah. I thought you were comparing them to Belgium for a second, and I know Roberto Martinez is in charge of the Portugal team, but I don't even think Roberto Martinez can ruin a midfield as talented as what we see with this Portugal one, at least in this first matchup. We have a question. We have in the chat by AI, Barack surely takes some sets. That's someone on Turkey, I think. And Ryan, do you know who he's talking about?
Yeah, no, I know who he's talking about. He's a plays for Fiorentina in Czech Republic. I actually really like Barack. He as a player. I haven't seen him recently, but I used to think he was a pretty good player. I didn't know if he was still taking sets. I remember he used to. Yeah, I got to check into that situation. Like he hasn't taken any in a few years for club. And I know last international tournament, he wasn't really taking any. But yeah, that's it. I will look into that. Barack surely takes some sets. I don't know what this lineup. I remember Jurasek and Provod taking sets. And I know Sufal steps up sometimes, but yeah, and they're probably not going to have many, right? So if you don't have a guy on a monopoly, I mean, it's not too much to worry about.
Even favored set piece takers and good scripts are busting with some of these.
And that being said, I think those guys are actually fine though, because Barack's 3,600 and Provod's 3,300. They're like min price, and they're not like, yeah, so it's fine. That's a fine price if you need a punt.
I played Amadou Onana at 3,200 today. Like, it's fine. It's I think what Adam Zdroik said, something that stirs the drink on this slate overall.
Yep.
I think we do have that role. I mean, I think checking with Czechia or Czech Republic. I don't know which one I'm supposed to say. I think Ian Dark said I was supposed to say Czechia on a broadcast today, so I'm going to lean into that. We can break into this just kind of nuts and bolts from DFS, so just so we can see all the player prices. As we said, at the forward position, at least Portugal really expensive. You're paying a premium for Cristiano Ronaldo. Bernardo Silva ain't cheap at 9,400. João Felix or Rafael Leao, if either of them starts, they're in the high 8Ks there. It's just not as straightforward as stacking Portugal in this spot, especially when you have some tempting options on Turkey. You could play Kuchku if he starts. I've seen him take a corner as well. He's a talented player, a bit lower floor though. That kind of feels like a scam the more I think about it. I was kind of warm on it early, and then I don't know. I'm pretty fine, with Loizic. I think if you get a few shots out of him, that might be fine. I'd feel better about punting with someone who's taken a lot of shots for country than someone who's going with crosses for reasons that I mentioned before. Again, 5,100 isn't that bad. I don't know. What are you leaning towards from an optimal point of view for the forwards?
Yeah, I don't know. It's someone from Portugal. But yeah, like you said, if you get up to Ronaldo, then you probably have to go way down for the second forward. Maybe even with Bernardo. Yeah, I don't know. I was looking at one of the cheaper Portugal guys, like maybe Bernardo Silva, Leao. Leao's kind of cheap compared to the rest of them at 8,600. And then I'd rather play a Turkey forward if I could. I don't think they're great cash plays though. Kind of like you said. Actually, the guy I like the most is the cheapest one. This Yildiz, Kenan Yildiz. I actually think he's one of Turkey's like up and coming potential stars. 19-year-old plays for Juventus, very highly rated. I'm sure he would get subbed, but I would rather play him than or anyone, or even see a comment from Turk in the chat. Barris Alper will skull love the slate. I like how he puts that. So you could play him too for 400 more. Like you're probably going to get more minutes and probably a higher floor. So I think that would be fine too. Or Kuchko. Also, yeah, I was looking at one of the Turkey guys if I wanted to, or if I could. I don't mind, like you said though, like Plosek saves you more than 2K off those guys or 2K off those guys, so that's fine too. But I'd like to get up to Turkey if I can.
Yeah, and I guess that's how you afford Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, how do you get from Rafael Leao or Bernardo Silva? That's exactly where the $2,000 comes from. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's not so easy. I feel myself getting burned a lot by an Orkun Kuchku play. But then again, he has absolutely taken me to the torture chamber in Europa League at least 2 years ago. I remember where I was sitting at my table in Madison, Wisconsin. So I don't know. It's tough, but I don't think he's the same player.
I think I remember that slate.
Yeah, you yelled at me for fading him, which was, I think, correct overall. Yeah, I don't know. One of these Georgia forwards, I'm not going to pronounce his name right, 6,200. That's a little expensive, but I think to be fair, Ryan, Georgia's more likely to pull a Romania than, Czechia in this spot. So I think strictly on game theory, I mean, like we said, we saw Fear the Turtle win again just by being willing to play a 3 men on the Romania side. You just kind of hope you land on a game that goes well. That's the type of thing that can pay off in larger GPPs. So I don't know. That's all fairly interesting. I don't really think we have the answers, but those are kind of the trade-offs that you're looking at. Moving on to midfield, like we said, Bruno is a little bit of a headache because he's not going to be taking set pieces, but he still has a really good floor. I mean, you can play Bernardo Silva if you want instead at 9,400 if you think that he's going to continue taking corners like he did in friendlies. Hakan Çalhanoğlu at 8,700 feels gross, especially if he's in a more defensive setup. Really think it's a non-starter, Ryan, if Goulet starts. Scrolling down a little bit more, I think Kerem Aktürkoğlu is just underpriced in this spot. He seems like the coziest click. I'll probably play him in every single one of my lineups. It just facilitates a lot of good stuff. And Ryan, you mentioned some cheaper options as well. So I don't know, what's your lay of the land on the midfield position?
Yeah, actually, kind of just what you said. If Goulet starts, then I don't know if you necessarily jam Kerem. Like, are you just going to play both of them? Like, for cash, sure. Yeah, I probably would actually, but I don't know. But you just jam for every lineup. But yeah, if Golair doesn't start, probably some good value there on Karem. Çalhanoğlu, we feel the same way. I think we'll just have to click him if Golair is not in there, at least in cash. I think I would. I mean, right? I mean, unless you're going to try. I think I would. I think I would.
Who are you fading then? That's the diff. I guess you're going to play two cheaper forwards then.
Well, yeah. I wouldn't play Ronaldo. That's for sure.
It's just the thing where if you're playing Bruno if you're playing,
you maybe have to fade Karem.
Yeah,
actually, if you want to play Bruno and so there's some big price differences there. It's interesting. Because I don't just want to throw away forward to play all these mids necessarily.
Yeah,
I don't want to throw away defense either necessarily.
That's what
Especially if you got Cancelo taking corners and like gonna have to make some tough calls.
Yeah, Cancelo. I feel I can just like anticipate the regret as I keep on like thinking about all the various trade-offs. But like you could probably play a lineup, Ryan, with Karem and Hakan and Bruno Fernandes. And then you're going to have to scrape pond scum at defender and then maybe play some middling forwards. I haven't tried to build the lineup then, but that seems really dangerous because now you're not playing Cancelo. Well, now you have to compare someone like, I guess, Cancelo against Karem. That's a very interesting comparison that I just thought of.
Yeah, I mean, Big Turk in the chat is coming in with a little alpha though. I was kind of going to say that like Karem's had a disappointing last couple months. He's been out of favor. He's sort of lost his starting spot in and out with Galatasaray, not really playing that many minutes. You know, Turkey have other attackers too. Like, I was seeing like 65 minutes from him or something. So, I mean, he's a fine play, but I'm not like worried about fading.
Interesting. I guess the way I was laying it out, I would be. So that's good. That's going to be something I want to look into a little bit more then.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've talked about him before, you know, when he's cheap and kind of plays 90 and taking sets and like he's just a good player, but
yeah, the sets aren't
just hasn't been it hasn't quite been going his way recently.
Yeah. Really good point there, I think. Are there any cheaper options that you like at midfield? I see you can play Hojsek at 5,100. I think I would use him to fill a forward spot. I mean, you could play João Palhinha for 3,900. He always seems to win tackles and get interceptions and might rip a shot. It's going to be a spot where Portugal have a lot of possession, so he can land on a couple of shots assisted. I think Portugal are going to get a lot of them, so it's at least worth considering. Provode really cheap. Maybe we can just take the view on Karem, Ryan, and I'm just thinking out loud because I kind of thought he was a lock, but like there's a lot of these spots where people of Karem's profile in this tournament are just scoring 6 points. I mean, how much worse could Provod be at 3,300, you know?
I agree. Yeah, that seems to happen quite a bit. Yeah, Paulinho. I think my favorite argument for planning for Paulinho is that if somehow João Neves started for the same price, you could play him. Took corners last time out, and just in general, quite a few people think João Neves is the future and like maybe already the best midfielder on that Portugal team. I mean, he's young, but they got him with like a $75 million price tag going to like PSG and Man United and other clubs like that. I would rather play him over Paulinho, but yeah, it doesn't seem like he's going to start, but you never know. Like you said, we've seen surprises in these lineups all the time. I don't think it's the worst thing if you played this Shangilia guy. I mean, he's only 4,700. He's a wing back. He seems to take most of their sets. Turkey aren't world beaters. You would like him to be a little cheaper, but like 4,700 is not too bad.
No, I mean, I guess I would just repeat what you said. 4,700 isn't too bad. Like I can definitely see myself landing there.
I think I would go if you needed it. I wouldn't prioritize him. You just go down to like Provo or something. You know, if you needed it, I wouldn't be like trying to get up to. Oh no, I can't get up to Shangilia, so we got to start over.
I think that's definitely the case with any player on Georgia. I mean, it's just nice to land on that, right? It was like how it was nice 2 slates ago to land on Sharon on Slovenia, but if you just had to go lower, you know, so be it. Ryan, like gun to your head, like let's say you could afford Provode and then you could afford Paulinho. I mean, who are you going to play? It might depend on the 3-team requirement, if we're being completely honest. Kind of like Paulinho a little bit, but it's tough.
That's a good question. Yeah, probably. Just as crazy as it is, I feel like those guys still have a little bit higher goal assist upside than like someone on Czechia or however you want to say it.
Exactly. We saw someone like Fabian Ruiz creep up a little bit. I could imagine João Palhinha doing a little bit in his game like Fabian Ruiz did for Spain. I don't know. It's tough. More exciting of a 2-game slate than I'm used to compared to some of these Premier Leagues where we had just play 6 Liverpool players. Taking a look at the defender position, you're comparing someone like João Cancelo to someone like Kerem Aktürkoğlu, and Big Turk, he's back in the chat. Shout out to him. We miss him in the Discord, talking about the form with Aktürkoğlu. So I think that's pretty important. Nuno Mendes stands out at 4,800. And then you're kind of scrolling down. I mean, Vladimir Sufal is someone who you'd like to play at 4,300. But again, like set piece takers are kind of optional. He does well, but I don't know. Just can't imagine too many set pieces against Portugal. Ryan, depending on how many studs you're going to jam, if you're not going to play Cancelo, you can probably just click whoever the cheapest names available are, especially if they fill the 3-team requirements. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, similar take. I'd like to get to Cancelo, especially if he's going to take a few corners. But even without corners, still a pretty good spot and price for Cancelo. We've seen him have huge games for Portugal in the past. He can also bust, so he's not like a must or anything. I was looking at this Kakabadze to fill the 3-team requirement. I don't necessarily want to spend 3,800, but he's a wingback who plays 90 minutes. So like he at least has, I feel like a little bit more of a floor. So if I wasn't going to fill the 3-team with like a Provode or Barak, considering punt goalie for sure, I think that's a good way to fill the 3-team. But yeah, I was also looking at this wing back on Georgia. He seems fine. And in the same way, like for 500 more, Sufal seems fine. If I knew he would take sets, I would like Sufal better, but
we don't even know that.
It's a tougher matchup for Sufal than it is for Georgia, I think. And you save 500, so yeah, that's what I was looking at. But also, like, you can go down even cheaper. I mean, I played Dragusin today for 2,500.
You spent 5K at defender
to fit everything.
The king.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on that. But
Ryan Belongia comes in the show 3 years ago, tells everyone that they're donkeys for paying down a defender too much. Shows up to cash with Radu Dragusin and then like Zeno DeBost or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't planning on it, but
it was a weird.
He 5x'd Kanoplia or whatever, whoever the Ukraine guy was. But
well, didn't Kanoplia do negative? That might be a bad thing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. He had like negative 0.08, and Dragusin had 5 or something. But anyways, if the position sucks, you can just pay all the way down, especially if it's going to get you the lineup you want. Like, I think we're seeing too more of a, like, if you have a 0 in your lineup or some busts, like, and it's a little different on 2-game slates, but it hasn't been mattering in a weird way. I mean, of course,
so much chalk is getting like 6 points. It's kind
right.
You just of course, have some weird combo that no one played.
Right. If you just like hit a couple ceilings, like you can make up for more mistakes than we're used to seeing.
That's yeah, it's been very good for contrarian-minded players. I think that is for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I keep on zoning out because I'm thinking about João Cancelo or Kerem. This is probably going to drive me nuts the next 2 hours, and I have to post projections soon. So, big yikes. Pray for me, and please don't throw tomatoes at my house if that happens. I mean, Ryan, we're at 40 minutes. It's a 2-gamer. We can talk about goalkeeper. You either spend up, you can play the Portugal or the Turkish goalkeeper. They're going to have similar enough odds in this 300. Turkish goalkeeper, I feel like might get more saves. It's probably just okay to play the Czechia goalkeeper and then say a prayer that Cristiano Ronaldo just rip shots straight at him from distance. Portugal are just going to be a team that shoot a lot, I think. So this is one of the few spots where I feel like there might be something like Premier League save upside. I feel like that's a good default position, but paying up has been kind of a popular strategy. Definitely working in showdown, playing favored keepers. They're more able to score 10 plus points than many other positions. Oh, Ryan, do you have anything? It's goalkeeper.
No, not really. I think I don't mind playing keepers against Portugal though, like you said. They are like, I don't think that's just anecdotal. You look at Bruno and Ronaldo. They have two players who love shooting from outside the box and who take more shots than most players that like aren't really going to go in a lot. Or, it's going to take a worldie to score from wherever they're shooting from. So yeah, I don't mind that. Even with Portugal players, like you could have multiple Portugal players and still play the Czechia goalie. I don't mind that on this slate actually.
Yeah, I think you can absolutely do that.
Like if it were floor players, like if you have Bruno and Cancelo, for example, or like Bernardo Silva and Cancelo, don't mind playing the Czechia goalie at all.
If I had Cristiano Ronaldo and I liked my lineup and I had to play the Czechia goalie, you can just treat it like showdown dynamics and it's fine. Like
for sure. Think of all the outcomes where even say Portugal and Turkey both keep clean sheets. Okay, cool. Their keeper scored 12, and your Czechia keeper scores 8, gets scored on twice. Like you might rather have him in some cases.
No, I completely agree. That 1700 might matter quite a lot depending on how you can distribute it around to the other spots in your lineup. Well, all right, Ryan. I think we can call it a wrap on that. Any last word for the people? Day 4, are you hanging in there?
Hanging in there, yeah. We're going to turn it around. I mean, I was telling you before, last 2 days really frustrating for me. Had a good first day. It's been a good tournament so far, but yeah, let's like get back on the horse tomorrow with some wins. And again, like what you said in the tweet and what we said on the pod, like just learn from everything you see and try to adjust faster than the rest of the people because there's more edge in this tournament than we see in like Premier League and Champions League. I'm pretty convinced about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of ownership that definitely surprises me.
And you get spots like we said where favorites can bust more and where favorites don't have these massive floors. So try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, like you see it, like I think in Premier League, like Christian Eriksen in a similar spot where he was like a day ago, he was only like 80% in cap. I'm like, what's like? We didn't even talk about him because there was nothing to say. And maybe there's late swap dynamics, but that's going to bleed into other formats as well. So being prepared that helps. Giving yourself outs, that helps. And yeah, just trying to adjust faster than everyone else.
Completely. Like I think Bruno will be owned higher than he's optimal tomorrow. Which
yeah.
And he might still be optimal. Maybe he's a great play. Maybe he's still the first guy in your lineup. But there's opportunity there if you want to take another route.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot of viable midfielders, so I agree 100%. Well, I think we can call it there. Thank you everyone for listening. Ryan and I will be back tomorrow. I think finally stage 2, we get to return to Germany, talk about, maybe see some new prices, some new combinations of players. So definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to continuing to make content for you all. RotoWire.com/soccer trial. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.